How's it going, everybody? In this video, we're going to be talking about some actions that the state of California has recently taken against the ATF, trying to get 80% lowers banned across the entire US, not just in California. So let's talk about this. But real quick before we jump into this video, if you think that the state of California needs to stop trying to spread its ridiculous gun laws across the entire US, go ahead and hit that like button and subscribe. I also want to give a shout out to one of the main sponsors of the channel, and that is Got Your Six. For just $2.99 a month, you get access to a lot of amazing things on their app. This includes up-to-date local, state, and national legislative information, and you have the ability to create small and large groups on the app. One of the neat benefits on the app is this button called Initiate Freedom, so if your Second Amendment rights are ever violated through something like a red flag law, you can simply click this button and what is an Amber Alert for firearms owners goes out to those individuals in your group. So it's a really neat app, and if you'd be interested in it, I'll go ahead and put links down the details section. So the state of California, along with the Giffords Law Center, has recently filed a lawsuit against the ATF, trying to get the ATF, one, to stop the application of its current definition of what they see firearms to be and how they define 80% lowers, and also the lawsuit seeks to actually get the ATF to redefine 80% lowers or incomplete lowers as actual firearms. And this is an action that is not just seeking a redefinition for the purposes of the state of California. This is an attack on the actual ATF's definition of what they perceive to be firearms and what they perceive not to be firearms, like they currently do not consider 80% lowers to be not firearms. So the state of California, along with the Giffords Law Center, is trying to essentially ban 80% lowers across the US. And this lawsuit was actually filed September 29th, 2020. I was aware of it when it first kind of came out, and there was a little bit of discussion about it, but then there was a whole lot of other things that popped up, not just here in the state of California, but nationwide with all the things going on with the Q and ATF. Now we have the redefinition of AR pistols and AK pistols by the ATF. We had a ton of things going on in the state of California, like RUP, Miller, and so it's something that's kind of gone by the wayside. But recently Reno May put out a video, and a lot of people were asking my opinion on what do I think that the state of California is trying to do, what implications might this have. So I decided to put out a video, and so Reno May has an amazing video out on this as well. And so I always recommend that if you're subscribed to me, go subscribe to him. He puts out great videos. And sometimes if I can't be timely on something, or if I'm wrapped up with work or something, he puts out a video, and I always direct people over to him if he gets to something before I can. Primarily, I want to direct you guys to the actual relief that's being sought in this lawsuit. And I'll actually put links down the details section to the complaint. And essentially what this is it's a complaint by the state of California, which a complaint is what is filed to start a case, but it's also a complaint for declaratory and injunctive relief. So what they're seeking is for the court, and here I believe it's in the Northern District of California, it's in a federal court, and they're seeking for the court first to issue a declaration saying that the ATF must redefine its language about what it perceives to be firearms and what it perceives not to be firearms, specifically targeting 80% lowers. And in the interim, they're also seeking injunctive relief to stop the application of the ATF's current language. And so when you look at the section for the prayer of relief, what they're seeking is, wherefore plaintiffs respectfully request the court to enter an order and judgment declaring ATF's classification letters to polymer 80 and other 80% receiver and frame manufacturers, and online guidance finding that 80% receivers and frames are not firearms under the GCA are null, void, and with no force and effect. So that's where they're talking about that they want the ATF or the court here to essentially declare that these letters that the ATF has said that these types of items are not firearms, they want to pretty much wipe those out, say that they're null and void, they can't be cited anymore, declaring that the ATF's classification letters to polymer 80 and other 80% receiver and frame manufacturers and online guidance finding that 80% receivers and frames are not firearms under the GCA are arbitrary and capricious within the meaning of 5 U.S.C.C.A. section 706(2)(a). Here they're saying that they want the court to find that the ATF's definition or the decision that they came to was arbitrary and capricious, meaning essentially that they didn't have any basis for making that determination, which is kind of interesting that they're arguing that. I don't know. C, preliminary and permanently enjoining defendants from implementing and enforcing ATF's classification letters to polymer 80 and other 80% receiver and frame manufacturers, and online guidance finding that 80% receivers and frames are not firearms under the GCA. So here what they're seeking is a preliminary injunction and essentially stopping individuals from citing that letter that went out from the ATF to these different manufacturers as support that they are legally doing something, that they are within the legal guidelines that the ATF has issued, They want to put a stop on that and essentially stop manufacturers from being able to sell these things as not firearms and simply as 80% lowers or receivers. And finally, ordering that ATF conduct a affirmative rulemaking regarding 80% receivers and frames in accordance with the GCA, which defines firearms as frames or receivers in items that are designed to or may be readily converted into functioning firearms. So here, the state of California and Giffords Law Center is essentially saying that they want the court to order that the ATF has to redefine its language, bringing 80% and incomplete lower receivers into the language of what is a firearm under the belief of the ATF. They are wanting the ATF to go back and redefine these specific items. Now, there's a whole lot more to this case. What I read to you there was simply what the state of California and what Giffords Law Center is seeking and what they want the court to actually issue in this case. Like I said, I'll leave a link to this filing in the detail section if you want to read it for yourself. I think it's about like 59, 60 pages. And the reason why I don't want to read all the major body of this, because a lot of it goes to what you would expect. The state of California and Giffords Law Center are saying these ghost guns are dangerous. Anyone can manufacture them. They go unserialized. We don't know how many are out there. They're used in crimes. Really what you would expect, not only for the state of California, but also Giffords Law Center to argue in something like this. What I want to talk about right now is actually how interesting it is that the state of California ignores the difference about how the state of California has addressed these ghost guns or 80% in their state versus how it's addressed federally and nationally. In the state of California, like many of you are probably familiar because you're California residents, I have a huge California resident viewer base. We have a lot different laws regarding 80% builds than other states. When the state of California and Giffords Law Center talks about 80% in this paper, they reference that these things go untracked, there's no serial numbers, anyone can have them, they're easily built. They talk about that type of stuff, but they ignore that in the state of California, the state has implemented a very strict structure and legislative scheme where these ghost guns really aren't ghost guns. They don't go under the radar here in the state of California. State of California has amended their language recently, pretty much making it so that the California DOJ has a hand in the entire process of these low receivers or 80% receivers being manufactured in the state. I'm not going to talk comprehensively about that statutory scheme and what all goes into that. If you guys would be interested in that, I can definitely make a video, and go ahead and comment down below if you'd be interested in a video like that. But one of the major things that a lot of you are probably aware in the state of California is that if you're going to build out an 80% lower here in the state, you have to get what is called a unique serial number from the DOJ. You actually have to get a California DOJ serial number before you even start manufacturing that lower receiver or that incomplete receiver. Then you actually have to engrave that according to DOJ specifications on that lower receiver. And then once you've done that, built it out, you actually have to notify the DOJ that you have done that and send pictures back to the DOJ. So like I mentioned, these things aren't ghost guns in the state of California. They don't go under the radar. The California DOJ has a hand in it during the entire process. So it's interesting that it's the state of California bringing this claim saying that the ATF's regulations is making a black market for guns and that these guns are going unregulated and anyone can make them, when the California Department of Justice has made much stricter regulations and guidelines on these items, and they actually do not fly under the radar here in the state. The state of California has a heavy hand on their manufacture in the state. Another thing I wanted to talk about, again, why this is so significant, is this is an action by the state of California, but it does not just impact the state of California. This actually impacts every state in the US because it is an attack and it is a seeking of the ATF to completely redefine what they perceive 80% lowers to be. And if the ATF is actually required under this complaint and under this injunctive relief that's being sought to redefine 80% or incomplete receivers into the language of a firearm, that impacts everyone in the US. And that means anyone and everyone within the US who wants to get an 80% or build an 80% is then actually going to have to probably do a background check and all these other things that come along with a traditional firearm in the US. So this is definitely something interesting that we're gonna be keeping our eyes on. It's gonna take a while for it to be worked up and go through the legal process, but it's something that's going to have major implications, not just in the state of California, but it's going to have major implications on the US at large. So definitely make sure you're sharing this, spread it around, go over to Reno May's video, watch it, share it around, because we really need to get the word out. And this is one of those things that's very interesting, because we hear all the time about people saying they don't want California's gun laws to spread like cancer to other states, and that California needs to keep its own laws to itself and all that stuff. Well, the state of California here is taking an action that is actually trying to now dabble in and affect other state laws and gun laws at large. They are now trying to take it to a federal level and pretty much take a hand and implement their gun laws and what they perceive are appropriate gun laws on every single state in the US. So if you guys have any questions, go ahead and comment down below and I'll try to answer the best of my ability. Also, if you like this video and like support the channel, one of the best ways to do that is like, comment, and subscribing, and make sure you hit that notification bell because it helps the channel analytics, helps us spread the word about the Second Amendment, also helps spread the word about things like this that are going on in our country. Also, I want to thank another major supporter of the channel, and that is USCCA. USCCA provides legal protection for patriots like me and you, so if you ever find yourself in a self-defense situation where you have your CCW and you actually have to deploy it, USCCA provides legal protection for you in that situation. So if you're interested in that, I'll go ahead and put links down in the details section to USCCA. So as always, thanks you guys for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe. And never forget, this nation was built by armed scholars, and this nation will be maintained by armed scholars.